Pumpkin bomb. What's up, everyone? Back at it again. It is DW Darkwing Dad. Back from our Disney trip, back to normalcy, no more crazy, and back to bringing you guys another cool video. So today I'm going to be showing you Pumpkin Bomb version 1.5. This is the precursor to the painted version I've got right around the corner. I made some changes, messed with a few things, and I wanted to share with you some of my findings. So the big reason for this video was, like I said, it was kind of a prototype, and one thing that I seen an issue with a lot of people making these is that there was no way for people to access the battery. If you remember my first Pumpkin Bomb, that was basically just glued all together. That was like a one and done thing. I had to super glue it. There's no way to get to the battery once it dies. It just kind of, when it dies, it dies. So with this one, I added some cool features. I found some stuff locally at a hardware store that made the battery fully accessible. I'm gonna go over some of my print settings, a couple different ways you can orientate the Pumpkin Bomb, how the bomb worked, how everything is wired inside, and some of the different changes I've done to this version, and I will compare the old one with the new one at the end of the video. So without any further ado, let's go. All right, so Pumpkin Bomb version 1.5 was printed the same way as I did the other Pumpkin Bomb. I printed this at a 0.2 layer height at 50 millimeters per second. Retraction, I did 6 millimeters at 30 millimeters per second. Printing temp was around 208 on this. I did use zero silk filament like I always use. And really, orientation wise, the best way to print this I found was simply printing it like this with no support. I had some issues printing it like this. If you don't use Z-Hop, it will hit these pieces. And it does do a support kind of right down the middle. And what would happen is it would kind of, when it would come over, it would hit the support, and then this would get all knocked free. The reason why I wanted to flip it this way is because you can lose some definition in here. But if you just do no supports, it prints perfectly just fine. You can see on the Pumpkin Bomb here, it still looks good. So really printing these this way is the easiest way to do it. Same goes as the inner clear piece here, PETG 5% infill. Just kind of print it upright there. That same thing with these pieces here, no support or anything, just lay them flat, print them on there. Now, what I did do is I did do my own little rendition here of this, and I did a filament change halfway through to kind of give this cool little black layer. It just gives a little bit diversity to the piece, gives it some color. I think it makes it look cool. I didn't modify the G-code or anything. I kind of like to keep things simple. Basically, all I did was I paused it at a certain part and then just threw some silk black filament in there and resumed the print, and it worked out just great. The biggest thing that I did for this was add these really cool screws. Now, on the original piece here, and this was a failed one where I changed the filament a little bit too soon. This file from Big Fred's Custom, it gives you two options. It gives you one where there's these little bubbles here. That was the original Pumpkin Bomb that I did. This one you can actually put LEDs in, but I went one further. A lot of people have issues accessing the battery, so I thought, how great would it be to just get some screws and put them in here and then glue the battery to the inside. So here's a shot of the idea that I came up with. You can see that the battery is glued in place right there. These are some hex screws, they're M3s, and basically just drilled holes through the top part of the clear piece. Just threaded these screws in. What this allowed me to do was glue the battery to the inside of this, and then when the battery dies, you just basically unscrew this whole piece pulls up, and then you have access to the battery. That was some issues that a lot of people were having with these. They were trying to make clips and do different like push thing. I don't know. There's just a whole bunch of different ideas. Nobody could really come up with it. I thought this was the best option. It gives it its own kind of look. Like I said, you can pop LEDs in here, which that is the goal for Pumpkin Bomb version 2.0. But what I'm probably going to do on that one is actually do some LEDs and then just two screws to hold it in place, because I still want to be able to access that battery. These I just got these from Lowe's. I'll try to search for them on Amazon and see if I can't drop a link in there. Obviously, this is wired the same way with that tilt switch, so when you flip it to one side, it turns on, and then when you flip it the other way, it shuts off there. So same as the last one. What I'm going to do here is just kind of show you some highlights of how I mounted the LEDs. Here's just a quick shot and explanation of how I mounted and wired everything, and then kind of put everything all together into one piece here. All right, so here's the series wiring setup I use for the pumpkin bomb. And basically what series is we're taking the positive lead of the battery and we're kind of daisy chaining everything together. So a positive is going to go to a negative, positive to a negative, so on and so forth. I did use pre-wired LEDs, so I didn't have to mess with resistors, but they are in the picture just for reference. So all we do is take the positive lead coming off the battery, it goes to the tilt switch, it then goes to the negative, and then it all continues through the whole circuit. All right, once you have everything soldered, the next thing you want to do is either heat shrink or, my personal favorite, use liquid electrical tape to cover all of the areas that you soldered. You definitely don't want these pieces touching each other. You can definitely get into some issues. Things can short out or just not work properly. And when you put all this together, it is a little bit of a tight fit, so there is a good chance that the wires could touch each other. The first thing you want to do is just make sure you mount the tilt switch in a nice spot right on that side wall is perfect. You want it pointing vertical. That way when you tip it one way, it turns on, and you tip it the other way, it shuts off. The LEDs, the most important thing I can say is you want your main LEDs facing that top clear piece, that button, so to speak. So what I'm doing here is just putting some hot glue, that's really all you need, on the side walls, making sure they're pointing up and just firmly in place here. The middle LEDs I kind of had just pointing outward, but you can kind of mess around with fitment and placement and see where it works best for you. Once you have all the LEDs glued in place, what I recommend doing is just putting it together temporarily. See how the bomb lights up, make sure everything is lighting up sequential and to your needs. And if it's not, you can adjust it as needed be based on your model. What I then did is when everything was mounted properly, I went through and just took some zip ties and just kind of tried to tidy up what I could. Like I said, it is a tight fit. The most important thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have access to that battery. So these screws are going to come off and that is going to lift out. So you want to make sure there's not too much slack near the battery. So you can see here both on the negative and the positive leads, there is some slack. That way when that piece is unscrewed and lifted out, you'll still be able to pull that battery out and access the battery if need be. Since you always want to triple check your work after you put those zip ties on, you never know, sometimes it may make things a little bit more snug or tight and fit. So again, just do a fitment test, just tuck all the wires in there and make sure everything lines up the right way. Lastly, just putting the bomb together, a little bit of Loctite. Just be very careful. Don't overdo it. We know if we put too much super glue on, you can get that hazy residue that kind of leaches through on the outside. So I try to get as much of it on the PETG as possible, hold it together, and then just kind of inspect it. If you see any parts that don't line up or are off a little bit, you can heat it with a hair dryer or just kind of lightly kind of mold it and form it and contour it to how the bomb needs to look. And here's just a quick side-by-side showing you version 1 to version 1.5. Obviously 1.5 is a little bit bigger. There are two different flash patterns, and that was just different flashing LEDs that I used for this version. Still looks cool, still gives it its own character, so to speak. Obviously version 1.5 has that black rim, and I think the screws are really an awesome touch. It also adds a lot of functionality, being able to change that battery. So definitely a nice little upgrade, I think, going from 1 to 1.5. And here you can see the roll test. So another cool thing about putting that battery holder and battery on that one side is it acts as a weight. So it's more likely to land on that side and trigger that tilt switch. So mounting that tilt switch on the sidewall in the proper place is key. But I did this about 10 times. I was about 80%. So 8 of the times it did land on the proper spot to trigger the light. I tried blowing on my cat. She didn't like that. My wife was getting sick of me rolling the pumpkin bomb. You can see her running out of the way. But just a cool touch, acts as a weight, and it triggers that pumpkin bomb just right. All right, guys, well, that is it for Pumpkin Bomb version 1.5. Like I said, there was just a couple extra things I wanted to add. Some things I tweaked in 1.5 from 1.0. Kind of get ready for the finished version, for the painted version. I think some of the additions I made to this version are definitely going to help in version 2, so I'm really excited for that. But hopefully this video helped you. Like I said, some people just like to do raw prints. I think this one, it looks a lot better than the original. Some color, it's got some cool features. The screws are really a nice touch, just aesthetically and obviously functionality wise, so you can change that battery. This one's a lot cooler. I'll inevitably replace this one once the painted one is finished. Gonna try to have that video ready and drop for you before the release of Spider-Man. We got some cool paint schemes and some even more extras on the second version, but 1.5 was definitely a success. It's gonna go on the shelf. It's gonna replace version 1, so definitely drop me a comment and let me know what you think. If you like this video and it helped you out, please give me a thumbs up, or like I said, drop me a comment. If you enjoy all things 3D printing, cosplay, Marvel, Star Wars, you've seen all my videos, you know what we do here. If you like any of that stuff, go ahead and click the subscribe button, because we've got a lot more coming around the corner. Speaking of things around the corner, I'm doing the final edits of the filler primer test. I wanted to have it out this past weekend. Unfortunately, getting back from vacation, I was just a little bit tied up. We had to put up the tree, put up the Christmas lights. We're doing advent calendars, so we were a few days behind in December. So I am going to have that video out this week. So if you are looking for the best of the best and you want to know what filler primer works the best, I have parts 1 and 2. Part 1 will be up this week. Part 2 will be up next week. So make sure you click that sub button and check the notifications for when that video drops. That's it, guys. I am done. I've got videos to edit. I've got presents to wrap. I've got all kinds of things I got to do. Holiday season is here. I am still giving away that filler primer. Once that part 1 video drops, that will be given away. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to comment. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna get going, guys. Drop me a comment. Drop me a thumbs up. Until next time, DW out. Later.